part of this. Okay, great. Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to get started because time is of the essence and we do not want to waste any of your valuable time. Thank you so much for joining this session. I am so excited, so excited to dive in. A few house rules before we do start. Please mute your mic when you're not speaking so that it's clear for everyone. Please use the chat for questions. Ask any and everything. Do you know the beauty of the mentor we have here with us today? She said there's no question off the table, so ask anything. And if you don't have a question, drop a reaction, a comment. Just please engage as much as possible so that you can get the most out of this session. Please have your cameras on if you can. It's always easier, like we're talking to faces and not pictures. Though your pictures are beautiful, but please feel free to show us your faces. Let us keep the space respectable. So whatever comments or interactions that you have for us today, please keep it kind. Please keep it constructive and inclusive. As well as sorry, the final point I have is about Q&A. You can ask your questions throughout the session. You don't have to wait until the end. So feel free to just drop it in the chat box and I will read it out to Toks as we go along. So welcome everyone. My name is Nyambura and I'm super excited to be moderating this session titled From Complexity to Clarity. If you've ever felt like you have too many goals or your goals are too big, or there are too many, you are in the right place. If you're not clear about where to start, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, this is the session for you. And we are joined by someone who knows a thing or two about making big things happen with intention and strategy. Toks Ayinla is a Nigerian queen um, who also doubles up as a dynamic strategist, a coach, and a creator of the Rootwork Model, which is what we're diving into today. The Rootwork Model is a framework designed to help ambitious people like yourself to break down complex goals into clear, actionable steps. Toks is passionate about helping individuals strategically build lives and careers rooted in clarity, intention, and authenticity. She's known for unapologetically shaking tables and empowering others to take up space. And she believes really in bold self-promotion, which I love. So it's about going after your dreams loudly and proudly, and we love that. So yeah, I hope your notebooks are ready. I hope your coffee is in hand, and I hope that you are ready for a session that is equal parts powerful and practical. Before we dive in, I'd like us to start with a bit of a check-in, just to, get us comfortable. And in just one word, how would you describe your relationship with big goals right now? When you think of the big goals that you have in your mind or in your heart or that you're working on, does it make you feel excited or nervous or overwhelmed, or are you laser focused? How are you feeling? One word in the chat. Somewhat excited, somewhat scared. That is real. Two things can exist at one time. Anyone else? Guys, we better engage for this session to be impactful. Ready. Pamela is ready. Who else is feeling ready? Or not? However you're feeling, please feel free to share. Fearful and unclear. Oba, that is why you're at the right place with the right person. And Talks, as people will drop their chat, their sentiments in the chat. What is your one-word check-in for today? How are you feeling?
Um, Optimistic. I
Nice.
think that's my word. Yes.
And is that how you approach big goals typically? With an
Yes.
optimistic mindset?
Yeah. I think I'm a naturally positive person. I tend to think I can do it.
Yeah,
However, I don't know how it's
you
going to
figure
get
it
there
out.
yet,
Yeah.
but I think I can do it. And that's enough to like start going. Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
But I'm loving all of the truth in the chat. If you see me looking over, it's because I'm taking notes so that in case any of this comes up as we're
going through.
going through, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, please
We'll be able to
do.
discuss.
Okay, okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing. As Tok said, your reflections are very honest of where a lot of us land when we think of big goals. And so, without further ado, I do not want to keep you from these gems. Without further ado, Toks, I hand over to you. Please take the floor.
Yes, okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Toks Ayinla, as I was so nicely introduced. Bios kind of make me nervous. I feel like you're showing off in a way, but at the same time, people need to know what you do so that they can know what you do and hire you for it and give you those opportunities. So it's a pleasure to meet with you all today and do this root work strategy. Let me just say it now because I'm in Nigeria and the electricity can be shaky sometimes. So in the event that I disappear from this breakout room, I will hop right back in once like everything is sorted. So don't think I'm abandoning you all, but hopefully NEPA just agrees with me for the hour and we don't have any power outages. So if that happens, you will get questions that you can answer in the meantime while I make my way back into the chat. So this is the root work strategy. This is a root work masterclass. And throughout our time here together, I'm just going to really introduce you to this methodology of how you set sustainable goals and audit goals. I see Gideon said NEPA. Yes, they're shaming us out here. But yeah, I'm super excited to work with you all and get to know you and hopefully allow you to leave here with a little more clarity than you have going into it. Can I get the next slide, please? Yes. So yeah, that was just the breakdown of our session. It's going to be 5 parts with a Q&A at the end, but ask me questions throughout the time. And our objective for today is to get you thinking a little deeper, wider, and more creatively about your career and personal life. And the reason why I say career and personal life is because I'm a firm believer that you can't do sustainable business or goal setting without your humanity being involved. And this is something we're going to discuss as we continue through this, but it's, in my opinion, impossible to separate your doings from your beings. Like we are all human beings doing things on this earth, and we can't remove those from one another because they're so interconnected. And in the times that we try to remove them from one another, inevitably they come back together. So why not just create your life, your business, your goals, your objectives, while including both of like your human being and your human doing. Next slide, please. And as I said, my one rule was like ask as many questions as you want. This is an interactive session. I do not want to talk at you. I want to talk with you. Luckily, I'm not the one controlling the slides, so I actually can see the chat as we're going. So if you throw anything in the chat or you use the hand raise function, please feel free to interrupt me for clarity. Or if you think it's a question you want to save to the end, that's also available as well. Next slide, please. Let's get started. The next one, please. So the first question is, what is important to you? This seems like an obvious question, but I think a lot of times we actually don't consider this. Like, and when I say what's important to you, it's not just, oh, make a bunch of money, whatever else, like everything that's important to you. Like, is family important to you? Is a job that you get to come home every night important to you? Is a job that allows you to travel important to you? Is being able to have a work-life harmony that allows you to see your friends every single weekend important to you? Is not doing overtime important to you? Like, we actually need to understand where our priorities lie in order to set sustainable and effective goals. Because if you don't know yourself or you don't take time to understand where you're coming from, when those priorities eventually come up as you're continuing through your career, that's when you're going to see what happens. And yes, you can answer. Please answer in the chat if you feel comfortable stating the things that are important to you. How granular? As granular as you want it to be. Like, I think the deeper you can go, the better, right? And this concept is called root work. So we really want to get to the root of every single thing we're doing. So please feel free to answer and share. And as you answer, we'll go to the next slide. Is that the next one? I think there was one right before that. Oh, yes. No, you're absolutely correct. That is the right one. Knowing your priorities makes your yeses and nos easier. And what I mean by your yeses and nos is truly what you say yes to and what you say no to. There have been opportunities in my career that if I were to tell anybody else about that opportunity, they would literally say, "You're a fool for saying no to that." But the reason why those no's were so easy for me was because I knew what yeses I needed to say. I'll give an example of a friend of mine who works in philanthropy, and she does a lot of work, and she's known for empowering children and really just helping and being a voice for the voiceless. So in her work, a lot of her identity and her priority is helping these children who life takes them off track, stay on track. And what happened was at one point, I think it was either an alcohol or a gambling company reached out to her and said, "We have an opportunity for you, and we're going to pay you about over $100,000 US." And this person lives on the continent. And she literally looked at that money, knew everything that money could do to help the cause that she's about, but said no immediately. I think they tripled it, they quadrupled it. They tried to even bend the opportunity to say, "You're not going to be a direct advocate, but whatever community work you want to do, will be the sponsors." And she said no. Someone said the volume is really low on their end. Can you guys hear me properly? Am I low?
No, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
try on your machine, Jerry.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jerry, but this is also being recorded. So in the event that it's a little low on your end, I think you'll get the recording, so it will come out, and then you can hear me as loud as I actually am. So this individual had to say no to that opportunity. And everybody else was like, "You're crazy, you're ridiculous. How on earth could you say this no?" But for that individual, they knew what was important to them. It was keeping these troubled youth on the path to make the best decisions for their life. And she became a role model in a way where if she were to advocate for this gambling company or for this cigarette company, those young people would be like, "Oh, maybe we should start gambling. That might be a fast way to make money or a fast way to have fun." So that no was abundantly clear to that individual because they knew what their priorities were. And I see some priorities. I'm from Morocco. The most important thing to me is to work from home at pace, or maybe at peace. I need some time to read things and up my skills. And that's important to know, right? Because if you were to tell me that you're looking for a job within whatever field, and I don't know that working from home is important to you, I could start sending you a bunch of amazing jobs that fit your resume that would require you to live elsewhere. And then I'd be trying my best to help you, but I wouldn't help you because I don't know what's important to you. Even my yeses and nos are clear, but sometimes they make our life difficult. And that's another part of it, right? Just because I'm saying a yes or a no with conviction doesn't mean I'm not crying while I'm doing it. And I say that to people a lot. They're like, "How do you make such hard decisions?" I'm like, with tears in my eyes and conviction in my heart, because I know I have to do it, but I also acknowledge the fact that it's hard. And I think that's a big part of it. People think that when you're making these decisions, ease is a guarantee. Ease is not a guarantee in anything in life. I don't think anywhere is written that things are going to be easy. It's just written that it's going to be worthy. I'm going to walk away from things because they don't suit me. And while I'm walking away, my legs are shaking. I've turned my back and there's tears flowing down my eyes. But at the same time, nothing is going to stop me from going towards or away from what I feel most convicted to do. And Crystal, you wrote peace and progress. And my question to you that you don't necessarily have to answer right now is like, what does peace look like to you? Right? Because for me, peace could be the ability to travel the world and work remotely from anywhere that there's Wi-Fi. For somebody else, peace is I need to be so close to my family and friends that if they call me, I can get up and drive to them within 10 minutes, right? So even in those things, you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And progress is incremental steps in the right direction, or it can be giant quantum leaps. So what does progress look like to you in this season? And how do you want that to show up? And how will you know when you're making progress? Someone else said, the most important thing for me is to learn as much as possible. Again, the question is, learn what? Because I can send you cookbooks on how to make French cuisine right now, and I can send you all the resources in the world to learn as much as possible about French cuisines and French desserts. But if you don't care about macarons and croissants, maybe I'm wasting your time, right? So we need to get very, very specific and understand what is unique to us, because I can sit here and you can tell me some things, and based on my biases and my experience and what I think is best for you, I can offer you solutions. But the best way for me to offer you solutions is to really know who you are and what's important to you. Next slide, please.
Toks, I want to interrupt you for one
Yeah.
second, just because there's that invitation to even take this a bit more personal, you know.
Yes.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious because we have, and I'm asking for myself really, but we do have a lot of like learners in the room, or, you know, people who are in their first careers and just really trying to figure this out. And that's why they're in the room, right? But for
Mm-hmm.
someone who kind of wants to draw a bit of a human picture to what that journey looks like. Have you always been this sure, or was there a time in your life that you were like, listen, I call you called yourself to a meeting and then from there decided that you dive into the work of getting clear about where you want to go. Yeah, so is that something that you'd say has been innate, or have you worked on it, or is there a significant event that kind of catapulted you into that clarity?
Mm. Yeah, I'd say it's a combination. Yeah, I don't think anybody fully knows. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that you have everything it takes to get to the next level, period. Not the highest level, not your ultimate level. So that means that if you are at level 2 and your ultimate goal is level 10, instead of looking at level 10, the ultimate place you want to be, and getting so discouraged at the fact that you don't think you have what it takes to get there to the point where you stop, you instead say, how do I get to level 3? Because no matter what, to get to level 10, I'm going to have to pass through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And instead of trying to do all of that at once, let's start with what is closest to us. And this is why it's also important to know what's important to you, right? Like, so for me, some of my fundamental core principles is I feel best when I'm helping and supporting people. I love speaking more than I like writing. Um, I like the freedom to be able to travel and be like location independent in the work that I do. And the type of things I like talking about are business relationships and personal development. And this is what I've known forever. Like, I've always known that these are the things I like to do, because I was a psychology major, and I was a psychology and economics major. So I liked business and I liked people, but I didn't know exactly what that career was going to look like. But I knew that when opportunities came where they wanted me to write essays, I was saying no, because I don't like to write essays. When someone said, oh, Toks, there's this opportunity, it's free, but you're going to get to speak on this topic in a panel, I'd be like, it's not paying me yet, but this is a platform that I think I like. And then someone else would say, Toks, we have a coaching opportunity for you. And then I would go in and I would coach because I think I like people. But then when I coached, I'm like, this is actually a little too overwhelming to do a lot of one-on-one coaching. So then I learned new information. I was like, I don't like to coach in that way. We're crossing that out. But based on the information that I knew about myself and what I liked and what I was good at and what I liked my life to look like, it became a giant game of trial and error. But the thing about that trial and error that made it beneficial or wise is that I wasn't just throwing random things at the wall to see what sticks. I was looking at this list of what I was good at, what I wanted my life to look like, what was important to me, and the things that I had room to improve on, and using those as the foundation to make those decisions versus everybody just throwing all of their random things at me. So even when you're trying to figure it out, knowing what's important to you helps you with those yeses and nos. And when you start to try things, and you feel like it's a yes, you start to look at how it aligns with like those core fundamental principles or values that you have. And then when you look at the no's, it also helps you refine things a little more, because I love helping people, but at the same time, I don't like helping people in a way where they're fully dependent on me for their next step. I like empowering people so that the tools I give them, they can use on their own. So when people are like, do you do a lot of coaching? I'm like, not a lot. And if I do coaching, it's I coach you for that moment, and I leave you alone for 6 weeks, and then you come back to me 6 weeks later and we course correct. But I don't want somebody to think I have a decision to make and I can't make it without Toks's advice, because that becomes emotionally overwhelming for me. And that's not something I knew initially when I said I love helping people, until I started helping them in a certain way and then realized, not like that. So that's really how it works. It's trial and error. You figure it out as you go, and the more you go, you continue to refine. So our next slide says that, oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for that question. Our next slide says that the biggest balance is the biggest scam you can fall for in designing your life. And this sounds a little ridiculous, but people are always saying, like, one of the things I had so many clients say to me when I say what's important to you is work-life balance. And I'm like, that is not going to happen. And that can sound daunting initially, but I think it's also something that's extremely liberating, because if you think of balance, balance means every single part of your life gets the exact same amount of energy, attention, and effort. So imagine now you have 20 things to do and only have 100% of your time. Balance would mean you should only give 5% of yourself to each of those 20 things. And imagine if you were only giving 5% of yourself. At the best, you would get 5% of the outcome. And at the worst, you would get way less than that. So what I say is it's impossible to have balance. As our lives shift, so do our priorities. So understanding the harmony required for each season of your life can lead to more successful outcomes. And when I say harmony, I hope you guys understand it in the sense of music. So if you're listening to an orchestra play or a choir sing, there are multiple components, right? Like, so let's say in an orchestra, there'll be the flute, the clarinet, the woodwinds, the violin, the trombone, whomever, the drums. At a certain part in the song, the violin might have the lead part, but that doesn't mean that the drums and the clarinets and the flutes completely go silent, but they reduce their amount of like loudness, for lack of better words, while the violin takes precedent. And that's how our lives look, right? In a harmony, if I realize that my priorities are my family, my business, and my personal relationships, and also growing my business. But at this point, there's a proposal deadline due tomorrow. I'm not going to try and balance all of those other parts. I'm going to make a harmony that, okay, today, maybe I like to speak to my sister for 2 hours on the phone, but I need 7 hours to finish this proposal. Maybe I'll send her a text and a voice note, and that's all she gets today. Have I completely abandoned her as unimportant? No, but I've been able to look at the hierarchy of importance of all of the things I'm doing and decided that the harmony today means that this proposal is taking precedent while everything else doesn't disappear, but it reduces in volume while I focus on the most important thing. And since looking at life as a harmony versus balance, I realized that it helps us to feel less guilty about reducing our frequency in certain seasons. It gives you the grace to realize that it's not that this thing is not important to me or less important to me because of the fact that I'm not giving it the time I usually do, but it's because in this season, I don't have that capacity. And that's okay, because life is a harmony. But if life is a balance and you're juggling everything, you're going to feel so overwhelmed when you inevitably do give 20% to something and all of the other 5% fall off because you really don't have the capacity to give them anything but one. So our life is that harmony. It's music, it's beautiful, and we have the freedom to be able to do these things in the way we want if we understand the seasons we're in and give priority to whatever is important. Yes, so now we're going to talk about goals. Next slide, please. So we are setting SMART goals, and SMART is an acronym that I think a lot of businesses discuss, right? Goals are important to the growth and success of your business, but the types of goals you set will make or break you in the long term. And that is just the fact. So my SMART acronyms, I know people have different ones over like that they use, but these are the ones that I really like. So the first one is specific. Broad goals are not goals. They're thoughts that need deeper insight. You know, I want to be successful. That sounds like a goal, but successful in what? Do you want to be a successful clown? Do you want to be a successful swimmer? Do you want to be a successful banker? Like, what does success mean, right? Like, if you just say it broad, it's hard for you to actually pinpoint what you're doing. Therefore, you also don't have the pressure to actually achieve something because you haven't made it specific enough. The next part is measurable, right? We need tangible success metrics. I can't say I want to make a bunch of money because to somebody else, a bunch of money might be enough money to be able to pay my bills every month and save 10%. For somebody else, enough money might be enough money to only use 10% of my salary towards bills and save 90. So you have to actually be able to measure what success looks like to you and what are the like check boxes that you'll be ticking off over time. So back to that analogy I made of trying to get to level 10. If I'm trying to get to level 10 and I know I'm at level 2, my measurable success metrics will be what I think I should accomplish that will let me know I'm at level 3, level 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 9 should be one step away from me hitting that level 10. And then A is achievable. Big ideas are great, but do you have what it takes to actualize it? And this can sound negative in some aspects, but at the same time, it's also very honest. I can say that I would love to see what the moon looks like. And that sounds specific, measurable, because I'll be there when I touch the moon. But is it achievable? Am I willing to become an astrologist? Or am I willing to go to NASA and learn those things? Well, now Jeff Bezos has people going to the moon for fun, but generally you need a lot of schooling, a lot of time, a lot of effort to achieve this thing. And it's not even about, do I think I'm smart enough to do the science to learn? I think I could kind of do anything I want, but is it going to be worth the sacrifices of everything else I'd have to do to get there? So the answer to that is no, because I've already told you all my my priorities are time, freedom, working from anywhere there's Wi-Fi. So yes, it's achievable generally, but is it achievable for me with the other priorities and what I know is important to me? Nope, it's not. So the moon will not be seeing me unless they have like an Uber to the moon. So the R is relevant. Why is this goal relevant to you? Not because your family says it, not because on Twitter or on X they're saying that this is how you make money, not because you ask ChatGPT what you think you should do and it says this is what you should do. It actually has to be worthwhile to you because there are a lot of things that are good in theory, but when you actualize it against your humanity, it doesn't actually work for you. And if your goals are not things that you're personally convicted about, the moment that it inevitably gets hard, your ability to sustain past that discomfort is going to be greatly minimized because you actually do not like this thing. You know, I'm a talker. People used to say, Toks, you know, you should go into law. Like you should be a lawyer. You love people. You love defending. You love advocacy. You would be a great lawyer. And for a while, I actually was doing my LSAT. I applied to law school quite a few times. And it was one day that my brother-in-law looked at me and said, Toks, you're applying to law school, but what do you want to do with that law degree? And that question, I was like, that's insulting, that's offensive. But why it was offensive was because I actually did not want to practice law. I didn't. But because everybody said I'd be good at it and it would look good, it just seemed like, yeah, this is something to do while I was figuring it out. And I'm the child of Nigerian parents. So lawyer, doctor, engineer are like the trinity of successful children, right? So I was like, let me pick one of these and make my parents proud. But then I had to stop and be like, I'm about to spend 3 years and over $100,000 getting a degree that I actually do not care to use when I leave. And how else could I take my love for those things that someone has attached to law and attach it to the type of work that actually aligns with who I am? So it has to be relevant for it to be worthwhile. And the final T is time bound, right? And Ideas without deadlines will blow in the wind. I want to make money. Okay, if the average lifespan is till 70 years, I have about less than 40 more to make money. You know what I mean? And if I'm not making it today, that's fine, because who cares? I didn't put it there, right? But we need to actually time bind our goals and put something beside it, so that if 6 months from now I come back and I thought I would have this amount saved, I can actually look at the fact that I don't and then ask myself the question, why? And that why can be a plethora of things, but at least I've attached it to time. Next slide, please. So, question: what have your successful goals had in common? So if you think about the things you've succeeded at in life, and this doesn't just have to be career, it could be anything that you've done that you're like, I did that, I did really well. What do those things have in common? And you could feel free to write them in the chat. I enjoyed what I was doing. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a big one. That's a really big one for me. Structure, absolutely. Right? Going back to those SMART goals. We don't just randomly fall into stuff. Well, sometimes we do, but if we want to be able to duplicate those results, we can't just, it can't, our life is not a series of infinite random events, right? So at one point you have to stop and be like, hey, what did I do last time? And how could I do that again for this new thing? Consistency, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Passion, discipline, learning that failing is not the end. Yes, yes, yes. Confidence and trusting Allah. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Lucy, that point you made about failing is not the end. Interestingly enough, I started something on social media on my Instagram last 2 Fridays ago called Fail Fridays, where every Friday I bring up a topic around business relationships or personal development. And I have people share what their failures were, right? And one of the things I say is failure is not quitting. Failure is staying somewhere beyond purpose. So it's actually wisdom deciding to stop something, realizing that this has reached whatever its ends are, and we keep going. So yeah, failure is never the end. It's just instructions to pivot. The things we did had deadlines, drive, finding purpose. Oh, oh, finding me on Instagram. Yeah, Toks.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know what that was. One sec.
Passion is another one for sure. Yes.
I
All right.
cannot
So
multitask. So at
it's
least I
okay.
know that's one thing I can't do.
Oh, you're fine. And we can go to the next slide now. And something I created a while ago is called the Roots Model of Awareness. And how I created this model was by looking at the goals I've had in life that have been successful and reverse engineering them to see what components all of my goals seem to have. And then I beta tested this against other people's goals by listening to people's biographies and asking people questions. So I believe that every successful goal has these.
Okay, I think just pop it in the chat. Can you guys hear Toks? Is it just me or did we lose her for a second? Feel free to unmute or to just type it in the chat. You lost her? Okay, cool. What are you guys loving so far as you wait for Toks to join back? What's resonating with you? Somebody said that she's so inspiring, and I agree. I'm sat, I'm taking notes, and I'm feeling like I'm already getting a lot more clarity towards my goals. So does anyone want to unmute or just pop it in the chat? The inspiration is amazing. I agree. I agree. I think this is why these sessions are so important. Just like it feels like we're all seated in a sitting room somewhere learning from her, you know. And the personal approach that she's taken to this model also just makes it so much more relatable. She's inspiring, articulate. Yes, learning so much from her. I agree.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just got kicked out of the room, but I'm back.
no problem. Welcome back. We were just
Yeah.
sharing what we're enjoying about the session so far, and I think some of the thoughts that are resonating is how inspiring you are.
Oh, thank you.
And
That's
Pamela
so
comments, you can
sweet.
begin for yourself. I love how confident she
Yes, I love how confident she is. Oh, and how she took time to know herself and align with her own goals and interests. Oh, I appreciate that, Pamela. It's been a long journey, but a worthy journey. So I'm grateful. Yes, so I was talking about revelation of the need for different. You first have to realize that there's something that needs to change. I don't like this thing, and I want to change it. It's that wake up call, as people also call it. But after you have that wake up call, the first O is optimism about your ability to succeed. And I think people don't necessarily realize how much your disposition or your thoughts towards a thing can determine whether or not you succeed, right? Because if I think that I'm not successful or this thing is not going to work out or it's too good to be true, anytime I see something positive, my lack of optimism is going to completely counteract the potential of that thing. So if I don't think that I could ever be successful, when an opportunity for success comes, I'm going to be like, yeah, they're reaching out to me, but everybody else who's ever reached out to me always goes ghost. So this is not going to work. And that pessimism is not going to allow me to move forward. So you actually need to be optimistic about your ability to succeed. There's something I do not like, and I think that I can actually do what it takes to change it. And once you have that optimism, the second O is the observance of required changes. And this is where we get that specific part, right? Like where we have deadlines, where we have structure, because I can say, I don't like my financial situation. That's my revelation. Optimism, I think I can make more money. But then how? you know, am I robbing a bank? Am I using the skills I already have? Do I have to go back to school and get a new certificate? How exactly do I want to change this? And what part of it do I think I have the optimism and ability to change? So once you get specific, you go into the T, which is the technique, right? And that's where you get the drive. That's where you set the deadlines. That's where you put your discipline and your consistency in, right? And the technique we're going to be talking about today is my Rootwork strategy, which will be the next slide. And then the S is sustainability of desired outcomes, right? And one of the things that I think we forget about, or that's a little bit unfortunate with the way life goes, is that you don't just arrive and stop. You arrive and you maintain. You arrive and you sustain. You can have weight loss goals, and then you get that morning where you step on the scale or you check your muscle mass and you've hit that goal. If that day you stop working out and going to the gym, regression, everything is going away. You are about to start going backwards because we have to maintain, we have to sustain, right? And yes, building up to the point of hitting the goal might be the hardest part, but if you don't sustain, you're going to regress all the way back to the beginning and have to do the whole thing over again. Manal said that imposter syndrome is real. And I kid you not, I know, like it's that struggle that we have. And to the point I made earlier about things not being comfortable, I think when people talk about the confidence I have, like if I tell you all of that, there was a time where I would do public speaking and I would literally throw up afterwards because I have such a fear of engaging with people. You would probably think I'm a liar, but trust me, I used to have the biggest fear. But at the same time, I knew that the fear was not enough to block me from what my purpose was. Because although when I walked off those stages, I felt nauseous, I also had this like electricity letting me know that, yep, this is what you should be doing. This is you. This is perfect. This makes sense. And when I tell people about my boldness, I tell people that boldness is not waiting for your legs to stop shaking, because there's no guarantee of that. It's doing it while your legs are shaking. So you often feel nervous. I feel like I'm not enough. Sometimes I end up in rooms and I'm dizzy because how? Like, how did I get here? Like even this room that I'm in with you all today, it's because Daniel, who was in the other room, we worked together. I was his coach when he was a BAL Future Pro. And he's like, Toks, there's this opportunity. I think you should speak to people. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Right. And sometimes it's not finding the opportunities yourself, but not saying no when somebody brings an opportunity your way. Like sometimes you're too nervous that someone needs to push you off the edge of that cliff, and then you trust yourself to land decently. There might be some bumps and bruises, but then you learn how to roll next time you fall, you know? So the lessons happen and you continue to refine as you go. So that's really how you overcome it. You have to start doing the little things and create that proof of positive concept over and over and over again until you're like, oh, yeah, even if it doesn't go well, last time things didn't go well, my life didn't end. So we move over and over again. All right. So now public speaking can make you forget that you know what you know how to talk. Yeah, I always say it, like when I'm speaking, sometimes I'll like forget how to use words and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, English is my second language. And the thing is, you see, the part of the reason why you all, let me not say all, but based on what I see, you seem to resonate with me is because I'm not speaking to you like I know more than you, or like I'm not human like you. So when we overthink public speaking, we think we have to speak like this PhD professor who has never made a mistake in their life. You're removing the humanity. But for me, I'm here giggling. I feel like I'm talking to some friends I've met before, you know, but at the same time, you're going to be able to walk away and say there's tangible things she taught us, but something about her felt comfortable. And I learned how to do that because I realized that trying to be like that TED talker who is so put together is not my personality. So even if I mastered that, I'd be a master at imposter at the best, because I'd be faking something that I'm not, versus me just being me, letting it be what it's going to be and letting it produce what it's going to produce. I think that's what it is. Oh my gosh, Miliki, that's really lovely. Thank you, my heart. You guys are really making me happy, and I'm glad that this is really resonating with you all. So now we're going to talk about Rootwork strategic goal setting, which is the methodology that I created to help people set, audit, and rework any goal you have. So this can be career goals or personal goals. I've had the privilege of working with hundreds of individuals really going through this strategy. So the strategy has 4 parts. So the first part of the strategy is the fruit. And the fruit are the goals that your root work will create. And the premise behind it, I think it was on the first page, is if you change the root, the fruit will follow. And that is a really big analogy for me, because I think that sometimes we tend to look at the outside results of something, not realizing that there was a lot of internal, dark, personal, ugly work that was done to get us to the place of seeing these results on other people and also on ourselves. So the first thing we do is determine what our fruits are. And those are our goals, those are our ambitions. And one of the things I do with my clients is, if you have a goal, instead of us looking at, let's say my goal is I want to make $1 million. Let's just put it out there. And a client comes to me and says that's their goal. The first thing I'll ask is, how much do you have already? And they'll be like, oh, I don't have anything yet. I'm actually $30,000 in debt. So instead of us looking at the biggest goal, i.e. the level 10 goal, we knock it all the way down to the domino goal. And the domino goal is the first and easiest goal that you can do that will have a domino effect that over time, repeating those goals will get you to your ultimate goal. And this also gives us bite-sized, attainable things to accomplish, right? So that individual who has $30,000 in debt, but their ultimate goal is $1 million, I'll be like, how much do you get paid at your current job? I don't get paid enough to make a living. So I'm constantly going into debt every month. So maybe our first goal would be getting a new job. And then I'll be like, what kind of jobs do you like? What are your skills? And they're like, oh, I love this industry. I think I'd be so good, but they require certain certifications. So instead of getting a job being their first goal is getting a certification in that job. How long do the certifications take? 6 months. When's the next time you can apply for it? Next week. Cool. So instead of the $1 million goal, the first goal we need to get is that certification, which also seems counterintuitive, because someone who doesn't have money, we're telling them to spend more money to make money, which is also something I talk about within the fruit, which is the like slingshot effect. Like, so if you think of a slingshot, that like you put a rock in and you sling it across, you first have to pull back to go forward with more momentum. And this is something a lot of people don't think about, right? Like, it actually makes financial sense for this person to go into a little bit more debt to get a certificate that once they're finished will allow them to make enough money to actually start paying down the debt, than for them to stay exactly where they are at a current job and still be going into more debt because they don't make enough with that job and their experience to ever get them towards their goal of $1 million. So this is what we do in the fruit section. We really determine what your goals are, and we use your skills and what you want, what's important to you to figure that out. So once we have the fruit, we go into the root work, which is 2, 3, 4. So the depth of your roots is when a root goes deep into the ground, right? Oh, there's a question. Go ahead.
Oh, who has a question?
No, you raised your hand.
Did I?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll
sorry, I
go
was
ahead.
just engaging. I was,
Okay.
please
Okay,
be
perfect,
here
perfect.
addressed.
Yay. I'm glad it's resonating. Okay,
Yes, it
perfect.
really is. I'm like more of a participant than a moderator. I need
I
to.
love it. Everybody's here to learn. And to be honest, the way I created Rootwork was because in 2019, I went through a really difficult time. And it was like one of the darkest times in my life. And by the end of the year, I was in a much better place. And I looked at it because, as I said, my importance, like my pillar is helping people. I was like, how did I get out of this? Like I woke up one morning and I was okay, but I know that's not what happened because I remember all the dark days. And I started to reverse engineer the steps I took, and I ended up with this methodology that now helps hundreds of people, which is like super cool, So yeah, you guys are learning because I was like patient zero with this methodology. And everything you see in my life now is because of like consciously and subconsciously, whatever I did with this. So the depth is the internal personal conviction, right? So in order to have really quality roots and good fruit, your roots have to go deep. And before we go wide, we have to first do the inside work. Like one thing I always say is, I can't want something for you more than you want it for yourself. You have to have the passion, and then I see your passion for your own stuff, and then that makes me excited for it, right? So that's why we go deep first. Like, what do you require to get this goal? Do you believe it's like attainable? Are you willing to do all of the work it takes? Are you willing to wake up early? Are you willing to go into a little more debt? Are you willing to put all of your skin in the game to make this possible from the things you can control? And if not, then we need to reassess the fruit, right? So then once we have that internal personal conviction, that's our roots going deep. We then need to do the breadth, and which is our roots going wide, right? Like if you think of any tree that's 100 years old, the roots go deep, but they also go wide. And the breadth of things is the external support and factors needed for success of your fruit. So this is the people, the resources, everything outside of yourself that needs to be the community that helps you be successful. And when we talk about the breadth, one of the things I think is important to note that it's not just mentors and courses and all of that. Like when I work with my clients, I make them make a VIP list. And this VIP list is a list of the people in their life who are important to them, who help different parts of their life. So if I'm so busy doing a bunch of work and I'm so overwhelmed with work, I have some VIPs who are my good friends who we can go out for drinks and have conversations that don't regard work at all because our humanity is important. Sustainability means every single part. I don't want your lives or my life to be only business, business, business. No, pleasure is a very, very important part of that, right? So the breadth is all of those external supports, including the people that make you forget the goal for the moment so that you can rest and then get back to it. And then the fourth part is the nutrients, right? And this is where that sustainability piece comes in, right? It's the incremental audits to track success, pivot, and make relevant changes. One of the analogies I often give is if you take like 100-year-old tree that's been thriving on lush ground, you uproot that tree and you place it in the middle of Dubai in a desert, and that tree dies. Did that tree die because it doesn't have the ability to flourish? Or is it because it was placed in a space that doesn't allow its nutrients to help it thrive? And that's how I feel a lot of us are. It's not that your goals are bad. It's that you haven't really tapped into one or all four of these pieces to really ensure your success. And the cool thing about root work is, yes, if you don't know what your goals are, we can start from scratch. But if you have a goal right now that you're like, I'm struggling with this goal, you can literally look at this strategy step by step and ask yourself what's missing. Okay, it might be the fruit, right? Maybe I'm looking at level 5, but I realized when I started doing the work that I'm actually at level 1. So I need to actually find the lowest domino because I was overestimating how far along I was, but it wasn't until I started doing the work that I realized that. 2, could it be the depth? I thought that making $1 million was important enough to me that right now I was willing to not go out with my friends at all for the next 6 months. But then I realized, no, you know what? I actually really like being with my friends. And spending time with my friends is important to me. So this $1 million goal that I have for 10 years, maybe I need to make it 15 years so that I can reallocate some of those resources to the other things that are important to me, like socializing or being able to go on vacations or spending time with my friends. 3, it might be that, oh no, it's fine. It might be that it's the breadth, right? Like I thought I know the type of mentors I need, but somewhere in me, I'm nervous to ask them because I feel like I'm bothering them. So I haven't been asking people for the support I need. And that might sound like a breadth issue, but it's actually a depth issue. Because if you were truly convicted that this thing that you're planning is necessary and important enough for you, and that the world needs you to accomplish this goal, it would actually be an insult to your purpose to not ask everybody for the help you need. So even if it's a breadth issue, it might still go back to the depth and it might still go back to the fruit. Because if I'm nervous to ask people about this, maybe I don't believe in it as much as I thought I did. And maybe that means I need a new goal. And then the nutrients part comes in on the maintenance, right? Like 3 months from now, 3 months ago, I was so excited and I accomplished this thing. But 3 months later, I've kind of stopped. Have I stopped because I've accomplished everything I need to and it's time for me to move on to a next goal? Have I stopped because I didn't really consider how to align this properly, or I don't know what to do next, or I don't know what it looks like? And do I need to go back to my core values and figure out what the next level of this is? Because I was so excited at reaching this level that I didn't even think of what would come next. So you could literally take this strategy, take a look at it and break down any goal you have and audit it for the gaps. And once you acknowledge where the gap is, then you do the work to fill that gap so that your goal can continue to flourish and your fruit can continue to grow. So
I do have a question now.
yes.
You think you can have all these things down and maybe somewhere along the way, particularly there, I want to pause there, the nutrients, the maintenance. Do you feel like a lack of motivation in and of itself is like a symptom, or what would you say about lack of motivation?
I think we need to determine where it's coming from,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes we have these big goals and we don't even ask ourselves what that goal was rooted in.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because people have told me this my whole life that I thought that my success was ending up here? And then I got there and I realized that the excitement I thought I would have at this destination doesn't even exist because I actually don't care about this. Like lack of motivation can be multiple things, right? Like I cannot be motivated because I don't think this is worthy. Yeah. I cannot be motivated because a piece of imposter syndrome, or I have a fear around putting all my eggs in this basket and what it would feel like to quote unquote fail. I cannot be motivated because this actually wasn't my dream and it took me pursuing it for me to realize that. And that's why I say that failure is staying anywhere beyond purpose. When our body is telling us something, it's our responsibility to listen. If I don't want to get up and do this thing, it might be because it actually doesn't matter to me as much as I thought it does, but maybe I'm ashamed to admit that to myself and to everybody who's been rooting for me. And then the question now becomes the mindset of how do I now justify this next action I'm taking, acknowledging the fact that it's going to disappoint some people, potentially including me. But at the end of the day, staying here is a bigger risk for me than leaving and finding the thing that will actually light me on fire. So it's really case by case, but that's why I love this. It's really attached to you. I never have a session that's the same with anybody because everybody's so unique. It depends on what you want your life to look like. And once you tell me and I understand it, we will work it like tailor-made for you. And then you're happy, and that's great.
Yeah, and I think it's true because I think like lack of motivation, lack of that, like these are such blanket statements that we throw around
Hmm.
sometimes. And I think
Yeah.
what I'm getting from this is that even with that, if you break it down, it will relate to one of these areas. It's either, a fruit issue, a depth issue, a breadth issue, whatever the case.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to peel back the layers and get to the root of it. Not just at the surface
Exactly.
level. I get it. I get it. Yeah, I love that.
Yay! I'm glad that it's clear, and I love
Yeah.
analogies. Like that's great. They're saying we only have 10 minutes left, so I will say I just texted Daniel saying we need next slide, please. So the answer to these three questions will help you answer the most important one, and that is, what am I selling? Like, what are you selling? You are not just selling a product, but you are selling a feeling. You're selling fulfillment. You're selling clarity. Like, my Rootwork strategy is for goal setting, but what I'm actually selling is empowerment and strategy. I'm giving people the tools so that they feel the ability and autonomy to set and achieve and actualize their own goals. And if I were to just say, I'm selling goal setting because everybody needs to sell goals, it's very different to, I'm selling you the opportunity to figure your life out for yourself on your own terms without leaving your humanity behind. It just sounds better. Next slide, please. So how do you sell it? You sell it by knowing that you can do that. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. So I've said this a little bit earlier, right? So the ability plus the willingness plus the preference equals success. Because some of us have the ability to do something. I had the ability to go to law school and the willingness because I did a million LSATs. But was that my preference? Nope. So therefore, we couldn't equal success, right? So it's aligning all of these things that gets you to the final destination. And I think there's one more slide that's just a thank you slide. Oh no, where do I fit into the market? Figuring out exactly where you fit in. Are you expensive but worth it? Are you mid-range, or are you capturing an underserved market space? And then the next one, please. Yes, thank you very much for your time, everybody. Oh my gosh, this was so fun. I really, really appreciate you all. And I deeply wish you the best as you go forward. I know we didn't get to do a lot of Q&A at the end, but the room is about to close in 50 seconds. So you could add me on social media and like ask me the questions if you'd like to, and we can like continue the conversation from there. And I'll make sure that you all get the slides as well, and the recorded version too.
Yes, the recording will be shared, the deck will be shared, and please look for Toks on Instagram. Toks, that is a bit of a tongue twister.
Yes.
I believe on all other platforms, LinkedIn,
Yes.
Twitter.
Yes. Twitter and TikTok.
Twitter.
TikTok
Okay.
more. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to appreciate you before the room closes. Thank you so much. This was phenomenal. I
Thank
am personally
you.
excited and will be reaching out. And thank
Yay.
you for your time and how passionate you are and just how much of yourself that you give to this session. We felt the energy, we felt the inspiration, and we have definitely learned a lot. So
It
thank you.
was
And
an
thank you all
honor.
for being here. You have been incredible in engaging and just